Hey guys, it's Ellen, and today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up. This month I actually managed to get through 9 books, which I'm really excited about. The first book that I finished is A Monster Calls, and this is by Patrick Ness. I thought this book was just incredibly beautiful. It was beautifully written, it had beautiful illustrations in it that were just, they were kind of eerie, but they fit the story so well, and they added so much to the story, in my opinion. This is about a boy named Connor, and he is going through some difficult times in his life with sickness in his family, and one day this monster shows up at his window, and he shows up every few nights and kind of teaches him lessons, tells him stories, and it's a really interesting relationship between Connor and this monster. I think this book could definitely be have a trigger warning for people who have dealt with sickness in their family, because it is very it doesn't hide anything. It's very blunt about the process, and it's very sad. I mean, I definitely cried at multiple points in this book. But it was told so beautifully and sensitively that I think that it was very well done. I haven't personally gone through this exact experience, but I do know people who have had a very similar experience to this boy Connor, and it really made me understand their point of view a lot better, I think. Although I know it's not exactly the same, I really can see more of where they're coming from and how difficult this sort of a situation can be. So I love this book. I thought it was really a very important book, and I'm glad that it's popular because it's really getting that message out there and that story out there. And I gave this one a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished was The Boston Girl, and this is by Anita Diamant. I actually did a full-length review on this one that I will leave a link to in the down bar, but I love this one. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars again. And yeah, so this is about a girl living in Boston in the 1920s, and she's telling her story to her granddaughter about when she was young, what happened to her when she was younger. This book brought up a lot of really important themes from this time period, and still contemporary themes as well. There's a lot of really important points. Women's issues, violence, sexual violence is one of the stronger themes in here, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that it did justice to this woman's life and to the life of a person living in this time period. It might have been sort of similar to this, and it definitely didn't feel rushed at all, even though it hit a lot of really important points, and it got through this entire life in just, a short little period of time. So yeah, I really loved this one. The next book I finished is Girl Boss by Sophia Amoruso. This was a little bit different. It's a nonfiction book, but I've been meaning to read it for a while. So my sister recommended it to me, and it was really good. I found a lot of tips in here, actually, for going into the corporate world. After I graduate, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, but if I decide to do business or anything like that, this is all about following your passion, working really hard, and just never giving up. I found a lot of really cool tips in here, so I really enjoyed this one. I think I gave it a 4 or a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Probably more towards a 4, just because it wasn't that engrossing of a read, but it really was very informative, and I liked it. Next, I read All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This is a historical fiction book from 2 points of view. One of the characters is blind and living in Paris during the war, and the other character is a Nazi teenage boy. Both points of view are very interesting, and what I loved most about this book was the writing. It's just absolutely gorgeous. There were so many times where I just had to stop and think about how well put some of the lines in here were. I didn't think the storyline was the most engrossing thing in the world. The story was really driven by the characters and not so much the plot. So it made it a little bit of a slower read, but I still really enjoyed the language, of course. Another thing that kind of bothered me about this was at the end, the way everything was wrapped up just wasn't really my favorite. I won't give anything away, don't worry. But I thought that it probably could have been done a little bit differently, but maybe other people would disagree with that and thought that it was perfect. I don't know, but I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read is Trouble by Non Pratt. This one is, I didn't really know very much about it going into it, but I got it on Book Outlet, and it seemed like something I was interested in. So the plot is there's a girl named Hannah, and she is sort of a popular girl in school, and she becomes pregnant. And this kind of brings out themes of slut-shaming and the difficulties that girls go through if they get pregnant at a young age. And I thought that it was handled really well. The writing was really great. Other character in this, Aaron, has a difficult past he's trying to overcome, and he befriends Hannah and helps her out with this whole situation, and I think that their relationship is just a really beautiful one. I thought this was done really well. It kept my attention the entire book, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Really liked it. I also finished listening on audiobook to The Storied Life of AJ Fikry. This one I was expecting to absolutely love because I've heard such great things about it and that it's really good for people who love books because there's a lot of book references in it. But I did find that it wasn't my favorite book. I think I gave it either a 3 or 3.5 out of 5 stars. And that's mainly because to me, it was quite predictable. The main character, AJ, is sort of not super likable, which I have a hard time with stories with the main character are meant to be not likable, because I prefer likable characters. Even if that's what the author was going for, I tend to not love that style. So I had a hard time with him. I had a hard time with the predictability, and then I had a hard time with the just sort of loftiness that the author brought about, sort of trying to connect these metaphors about books to life and life lessons, and I thought it was kind of a stretch at some points. I mean, some of them were really nice. I thought some of them were sweet, but other points I was just like, you're trying a little too hard there. I don't know about that. Overall, it was an okay story. I listened to an audiobook, so that could have changed my opinion about the characters or the way that the metaphors were presented, so maybe I'll try reading it in physical copy and see if that changes my mind, but yeah, I think that this one was sort of just an okay book for me. The next book I read was my favorite book of the month by far, and it's Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. This book absolutely blew my mind. I know that everybody says, like, oh, I couldn't put it down, but, like, literally, I could not put this down. There were so many instances where I was like, I have to use the bathroom, but I can't go because I am reading this book. I can't eat. I, like, read this in 2 sittings because I just could not stop. I had to know what happened. The world in this is so cool. I mean, like, it's very, very much, like, dilapidated and run down. The government has gone, and the ecosystem has all kind of gone to hell, and everybody in this universe, sort of this not so distant future, I should say, is living their lives out in this virtual world, which is a video game, and it's called Oasis. And I think Oasis sounds really cool. I would definitely love to try it out. I wouldn't want to be dependent on it by living in this world, but if that existed now, I think that I would be playing that all the time. It was super cool. And this one has a ton of 80s pop culture references, which I didn't get all of them, but the ones I did get, it made me feel really cool and like very connected to the characters. So this one is just, if you haven't read it, you should read it. It is so good. I think it can reach a wide audience too, because a lot of people like video games. It has a sweet little friendship, a sweet love story. It just is really cool. It's almost sci-fi, but not quite. I don't know. I can't say enough good things about it. I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars, of course. The next book I read is The Promise of Stardust, and this one is by Priscille Sibley. This one, it was okay. I struggled a little bit through it because it was really slow paced, and actually the style of this book reminded me a little bit of Jodi Picoult's writing, because she talks a lot about sort of courtroom things. The Promise of Stardust is about this one decision that this husband has to make for his wife, and he's going up against some other family members that were really close to her about what she would have wanted in this situation, and it's a lot of back and forth but moral dilemmas regarding this one situation, and for a while in the beginning when I was reading it, I was really just thinking it was going to be like just this, like just in the present time period and not flash back to the relationship between the main character and Elle, his love. But eventually, I think it took him the author a little bit too long to get to flashbacks, because I like to get to know the relationship and the character before I can really care about what's happening in the present with the characters. So I thought they could have gotten to the flashbacks a little bit more quickly. And I also think that the character Elle, who is the wife of the main character, she was sort of put up on a pedestal with like all of this really ridiculous stuff being so great about her. So she was beautiful, she was extremely intelligent, she was very like virginal, and I just think that that's not super realistic, and I don't know, I kind of like characters that are a little bit more flawed. So overall it was a cute story. There were a couple times that I got a little teary, not gonna lie, and I did enjoy it. Overall I gave it 3 stars out of 5. The last book that I read was the Vagina Monologues, and this is by Ensler, and this is the VDay edition of this book. I've been wanting to read this for a really long time. On my campus, students perform the Vagina Monologues every Valentine's Day, and so I think that's a really cool thing, and I wanted to know kind of the story of it. And the good thing about this edition is that it gives the backstory. There's an interview from Ensler talking about like what her thought process was going into this, sort of where she's gone since the Vagina Monologues came out, and then it has a foreword by Gloria Steinem, who is a well-known feminist writer, so that was really cool to read as well. And then, of course, the monologues themselves are really cool. I just think this is a really important read for any feminist, any person, actually, I don't know. I thought it was really good. And I really liked it, so I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars. So that's it. Those are all the books that I read in the month of February. Let me know what you guys read this month. I'd love to hear from you guys. As always, leave video suggestions in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!